Let's look at the new interface of the Sentence Diagrammer Plus. Here you have your file menu. That includes your typical menu items. There's no close button. Save whatever diagram you wish to save. Exit the program. If you save a diagram, you click New to start a new one. We have three dialogues here: your diagram setup, your page setup, your page border. We'll have separate titles for those. Here's your edit menu. Here's your help online. You can use, this will go to YouTube, but you can also go from YouTube to the website, which has the same videos. These tools here are just like up here. And if you hover your mouse over any one of these tools, you'll see its function. Oh, before we get out of the file menu, we will show you that there's a print preview dialog and a print dialog. And then you can export files as PDFs, image files, and what's good about that is you have all of these formats: EXIF, GIF, icon, JPEG, PNG, TIFF. Now if you can draw, it's really nice to have an ICO file, because you can use this program to create icons and even upload them for other people to use. These tools here have to do with showing the grid and not showing the grid, and this has to do with snap to grid. So when you draw something onto the diagram surface, like let's say a line, we'll click Line Tool, it automatically lines up into a straight line. Now notice these grid marks, it's kind of hard to see, but you want to make sure that you draw a line on the pixels, on these points. If you draw a line in between and you have the snap to grid off, it's going to be hard to get a straight line. So let's erase this and let's turn off snap to grid. Let's get our line tool here. Let's go in between. So that's not quite a straight line. This is the undo button. Now let's try to draw the line on these points. It's a lot easier. On the other hand, if you have snap to grid on, it becomes a snap to draw a line. It's easy to make it straight. We'll get more into that in a moment. These are your nudge tools. Any shape that you draw onto the diagram is considered a set of nodes. So you'll hear me saying shapes, nodes, or node, and they're all used interchangeably. Yeah, these nudge tools take whatever you draw and they move them in the direction of the arrows by 1 pixel at a time. And that's really important when you're diagramming, when you want to get the text in a particular place. You're going to use these nudge tools. You can also use your arrow keys on your board, and as you can see, it moves at about anywhere from 3 to 5 pixels at a time. Those are your nudge tools. In the same vein, we're going to pull something out from the palette. There's a shape right there. Again, you can use your nudge tools. Now let's look at the text tools. This is your font dialog. It allows you to change the font style, and the size. Let's click here, Add Text. And let's take our font dialog and let's go down to a font like Verdana. It's kind of a large font. And let's make it bold, and let's make it 20. That's huge. But as you notice, now this text box is not large enough to hold the font. So what you do is you select it and then go over here to this yellow button and click Fit Text, and there you go. So that's your Fit Text button. And I kept it yellow because you're going to be using it frequently. So now you have large text, and you have a bounding box. So how do you get rid of that? Well, what you do is select it, and then go here to this transparent button. And this stands for transparent text box. So you click it, and you have nothing. I'm going to disable the grid again. And you have nothing around the text. If you have like multiple text boxes on the diagram, so we're going to click this bold one, add text, and we're going to add several, and realize they all line up on top of each other. So you need to count the number of times you click it. Here you go. You have all of these text boxes with bounding boxes around. You don't even have to select them. Once you click this transparent text box button, everything on the diagram will lose its bounding box. It's still there, it's just transparent. Let's finish our text tools. Here, your bold, underline, and italicize buttons. This is your color, so you can change the color of your text. Let's add a text box, and let's turn the text red, and there you go. So you may want to color code your text for subject, verbs, direct objects, etc. Here's a spell checker, and this is the editor. This is a freestanding word processor or text editor, and it allows you to cut text from that application and bring it into the diagrammer. You can go to a document on your desktop or on your computer, and you can edit it here. You can use this as a standalone application. You don't have to use it just with the diagrammer. And it has page functions, tables, pictures. You can insert any of these into your document, add headers and footers. Our full editor, which is like Microsoft Word, is in our Ultimate Editor Plus package. This is pretty good though. That's our editor button and our spell check, which will check all the text in your diagram. We've gone over the transparent text box, bounding box button. This is shape color. So let's go here and grab a basic shape. You just grab a shape, hold down your left key, and drag and drop it to the diagram surface. You may want that. You may even want it to be behind, you might want it to be behind your diagram. Make it nice and pretty. But anyway, our shape color is a drop down. It allows you to change the fill color and the shadow. Let's choose a color for it like green as the forecolor. And let's click OK. So there it is. Let's go back and show you how. Let's pick this green. You can change the alpha properties. This is your preview. So your alpha properties determine how much you can see through the diagram. So you may want it on top of your diagram that you create and put this on top. So anyway, that's that. That's your your background color. This is your forecolor. Now, the forecolor also has an alpha slider, but it only shows up when you have some type of gradient or texture. So here's your gradient, and we have a gray forecolor. So we can change the angle. Here's the gray here, and you can move this and see how it changes the angle. And you can change the center. So you can move the gradient around. Let's choose a kind of a darker color for the gradient, like that. And let's change its opacity. And there you go. So here we have a different type of box. So it's not just the colors and textures and things you can change. You can also change the shadow. So we click this and we get a dialog for your shadow for whatever shape you have. Well, let's choose a shadow dark one. For this little checkbox, you have to tick it in order for the shadow to show up. So again, here's your preview, no shadow. Click it, you have a shadow. These are your offsets for your X and Y's, so you can experiment. Look at this. I'm going to go down on the X, and I'm going to go up on the X. See, it's moving in the X plane. And then I'm going to go up on the Y, and I'm going to go down on the Y. You can see it drops further down as the numbers go up. And again, you can determine how opaque your shadow is. Let's make it real opaque. And there, you got a shadow. So you can play with that. It's kind of fun and have a three-dimensional look there. So we've covered these, and then you have your select tool, your pan tool, your undo and redo. You can right click, you'll have your select or pointer, pan, your zoom, and we'll get into this in a moment. So here's your zoom tool, and you can change the size. Let's put the grid back on. You can zoom in to your diagram or zoom out. Go back to 100%. The disable central port, we'll cover that in a separate video. This is a rotate nodes. Everything's called a node, any shape that you put onto the diagram. So we're going to add a line through this drop down. Now notice, these are automatic lines. You have bold add line, you have bold add text, and we showed you this earlier. These, on the other hand, you have to click them and create the line or create a text box. Whereas here, I can add a line. There's a drop down for different sizes. This is your baseline, for instance, a 300 pixel baseline. And then you might want to use your line tool. You might want to add another line and use your rotate and move your subject verb separator here. You want to nudge it down a little. And there you go. Then you want to click here to add text. You can put text here. Now snap to grid is on, so it's going to move kind of staccato. You see it just kind of goes to these lines in your grid. If you take off snap to grid, it's on by default. Then you can just move this around freely. You might want to add some more text here. Well, how do you change the text? You double click. Now, usually when you double click, this little box can move a little. So I like to do everything with the text boxes up here. And then when I double click, I don't have to worry about it. So I'll say Ronald, and I'll double click loves. And I'm going to grab these. And I'm going to fit text. Ronald loves. And I can actually duplicate that or just do another one. So I'll just do another one. And I'm going to say school. Fit text. And bring it down here. And then I'm going to add maybe a 30 pixel line. Rotate it to 90. And move it right here. So there you go. Let's take the bounding boxes off. And there I have a simple diagram. These two, I have red for left and or counterclockwise and green for clockwise. This rotates whatever node you've selected. So if I add a line, here's a line here, I can rotate it by 1 degree here. So this is when you need to fine-tune the direction of your shape. Likewise, I can pull this, let's get a different shape, drag and drop it holding down the left mouse button, and I can go ahead and rotate that by 1 pixel or 1 degree. Now, we'll go to add line. As we said, these lines go from 10 to 300 pixels. And we added this button to make it easier. This is your line tool where you define a line. You notice this line isn't exactly on the points. You want to do that in order to make it straight. And when you do draw lines in that way, turn your snap to grid on. So that's not a perfect line. Now that we have snap to grid on, you can get your line tool, whoops, and there you go, you have a perfect line. Now this is the line weight, so you can see this is about 0.5. Let's go to that one and make it larger. And this is your line color. Dialog comes up. You may want to make your base lines red and your vertical lines different colors. And again, this is the automatic add text. And you can double click in there and say, hello world. There you go. And let's get rid of the transparent box. Now this is going to be the background color. You can change this background color to the same color as the shape. This is the text tool where you define your text box. And this is good. You can right click and paste any text that you've gotten from your computer or from the word processor. And we know about fit text. Okay, well, at least you can get started this way. You can drag and drop diagram parts onto your diagram, but that's going to require a special title. So we'll continue in the next video. Thank you for using Sentence Diagrammer Plus by Toolbox for Writers.